Uh, in this lecture, we will discuss about Pelton wheel. Now, as you can see, different elements of Pelton wheel here. Fine. So one by one, we would understand the function of each and every element. The very first important thing is the penstock. Now, what is the function of penstock? What exactly penstock is? Penstock is basically a pipeline which conveys the water from the dam to the turbine. Fine. So it is a simple pipeline. Now then, next is the spear and nozzle arrangement. Spear is nothing but this orange colored uh, structure. Fine. With the help of spear, what we are doing is we are regulating the flow. With the help of hand wheel, we can either move it in forward direction or we can move it in backward direction. So by moving backward or forward, we can regulate the flow. Fine. Then next is nozzle. Nozzle is here. Now as you can see, it is a nozzle shape. The area is decreasing, and because of decrease in area, what happens is that the pressure energy gets converted into kinetic energy completely. Fine. Why we are saying that it is a complete conversion? Because the jet comes out in atmosphere freely and then it strikes the bucket of the Pelton wheel. So that's why we say that it is a complete conversion. So the jet which is coming out of nozzle is at atmospheric pressure. So when the jet strikes the turbine, it is at atmospheric pressure. When the jet is gliding over the buckets, then also the pressure is atmospheric. And when the water falls down into the tail race, at that time also the pressure is atmospheric. Fine. So the pressure is constant the moment the water comes out of nozzle. Fine. So that is what the function of spear and nozzle is. Then casing. The function of casing is just to avoid splashing of water. It doesn't have any hydraulic function to perform. It just avoids the splashing of water. Fine. Then next is the runner. Runner is nothing but a rotor, a disc which has got these buckets mounted over the periphery. Fine. So runner is the area where the action takes place, the energy conversion takes place on the buckets. Fine. So what are buckets now, that we'll see. Now bucket are having semi ellipsoidal shape like this. Fine. Buckets are like this. So the water comes out from the spear and nozzle and then it strikes over the bucket, and then over here there is a splitter. Over here there is a splitter. This is known as splitter. This splitter, what does it do is it divides the jet equally into two parts. It divides the jet equally into two parts. Fine. So the splitter divides the jet into two parts, and then these are the two cups which allow the water to glide over it, and then the water comes out tangentially. So just because the water comes out tangentially along the blade angle, there is a change in momentum. This is the initial direction of flow. Fine. So this is the initial direction. I'll show it once again. This is the initial direction of flow, and if you just see this, so this is the final direction. So this is the angle of deflection, which you can write. If this is theta, then this is 180 minus theta. So that is nothing but angle of deflection, which is generally between 165 to 170 degree. So because of this angle of deflection, we are getting that impulse force. So the impulse force you are getting because of change in momentum. Fine. So the momentum changes. This is the initial momentum. This is the initial momentum, and finally you are getting momentum in this direction. So if we are interested in this direction, so this is the change in momentum which you are getting. Fine. So because of that change in momentum, a force acts on the bucket, and then as the bucket is mounted on the wheel starts rotating. Fine. So this was about bucket. Now something more about bucket, we can say that the buckets are semi ellipsoidal shape cup. There are two. There are two buckets. There are two hulls. this is half, this is first half, this is second half, and then this is the way it looks like. So water falls at the splitter, the center line, this is the splitter. The water falls at the splitter, and then the water glides over the bucket, and then it comes out. Fine. So this known as splitter. Then second thing is that if you draw the bucket once again here, just like this is the bucket. So at the bottom a notch is provided here. So this is the cutout. You can call it cutout, or you can call it notch. Also. Why this notch is provided? Just just to avoid meeting of water and the bucket at a proper location. This also avoids the flow back of water when it strikes. If you are putting solid here, if you are not removing this material, what could happen is the water might flow back and it might hit back on the bucket. Fine. So that's why we are putting notch here. We are removing the material so that when the bucket when the wheel is rotating, when the bucket is coming, bucket should be right in front of the jet, so that the meeting should happen properly. Fine. So for that meeting, we are keeping this notch. Fine. So this was about the bucket. Fine. So what are the terms which we have used? One is splitter, another is the notch. Fine. Then third one is the semi ellipsoidal cup shaped buckets. Fine. Okay. So after buckets, then tail rest level. Now what is the tail rest level? Tail rest level is the area where the water finally falls down. So after action, the water will fall down into the tail rest. Now what is deflector? Deflector will change the direction of jet. Deflector will do what? It will change the direction of jet. It might also decrease the discharge, which it might also decrease the flow rate. So it can be used by the governor mechanism, or it can be used to decrease the speed of turbine, or it can be used to control the speed of turbine. So deflector is meant for regulating the flow. Fine. This is the another way in which you can regulate the flow. Fine. Then what is braking jet? Braking jet is used to stop the turbine, because the moment you will stop the supply from penstock, if you want to stop the turbine, what you have to do? You will have to stop the supply from penstock. But then still, after stopping the supply, still because of inertia, the wheel will be rotating. So just to stop that motion, we are using this braking jet. So braking jet will impinge the jet on the back of the buckets, and that would create a resistive force, thereby stopping the wheel. So braking jets are used for stopping the wheel. Fine. So this finishes the terminology of Pelton wheel. Okay, so this we have seen already. Penstock, then spear and nozzle. Fine. What does spear and nozzle do? So this is the nozzle, this is the spear. Now many times needle word is also used. The front portion of the spear is called as needle. Fine. So that we have seen already. Then runner with buckets we have seen. Then one thing which I would like to mention here about the notch, I'll read this. A cut or notch in outer rim of each bucket is provided to make the jet to face the bucket only when it comes into proper position with respect to jet. So that is what the purpose of notch is. Fine. Now when we are getting maximum driving force, I told you that the driving force which you are getting is because of the angle of deflection. Now higher is the angle of deflection, higher is the force. But now maximum force which you can get is when the angle of deflection is 180 degree. But 180 degree you will be getting only when you are using hemispherical buckets, and the buckets which we are using are not hemispherical, they are semi ellipsoidal buckets. Now why we are not using hemispherical, or why we are not going for angle of deflection of 180 degree? Because the 180 degree angle of deflection will because of that angle of deflection, what would happen is that the jet will come out in the exactly opposite direction to that of impinging jet. So it will hit on the back of the succeeding bucket. So that is impracticable, and that's why hemispherical buckets are not used, and that's why we are using the cup shaped, spoon shaped buckets and they are having an angle of deflection of 165 to 170 degree. Fine. Then another important thing, why we are using two cups. Fine. So the two cups are joined together because we want to avoid the side thrust which is produced by the fluid. In each half they balance each other, no axial thrust or end thrust is developed. Fine. So now why axial thrust is there, so just we'll see that here. See now here, as we know the velocity triangles, when the jet will come out from here, I'll draw this here. Fine. So if this is the absolute velocity, then you will be getting a flow component, that is Vf, and then you will be getting a whirl component, that is Vw. So now this Vw will help the turbine to rotate, but then this Vf will create that end thrust. Fine. So if this Vf is creating end thrust, so that is in bottom direction. So just because there is another bucket, another half, so that another half will create Vf in the top direction or in the forward direction or in the other direction, exactly opposite. So this Vf and this Vf effect will be nullified, so it will nullify the effect of end thrust. So that's why we are using these two cups. Fine. So that is what it is. Fine. Then now we will come to the velocity triangle because we would like to do the analysis. So this is the inlet velocity diagram. Fine. As you can see, V1 is equals to Vu1, and U1 is this is U1, and this is VR1, and this is complete V1 is equals to Vu1. Fine. It is striking at the splitter, and then the jet is divided into two parts, exactly, and then that jet is coming out here like this. Now here we have taken alpha 2 greater than 90 degree. Here we have taken alpha 2 greater than 90 degree. This is VR2, exit relative velocity. This is the blade velocity, and this is the absolute velocity. Fine. This is the angle of deflection which I had already told you. So because of this angle of deflection 180 minus beta 2, we are getting the force. Fine. Now there could be three possibilities. As here we have taken it greater than 90 degree, you can have two more possibilities: alpha 2 less than 90 degree and alpha 2 equal to 90 degree. So let us first see all these three possibilities. Fine. But we will do our analysis with this only, but let us see these three possibilities. Fine. So possibility number one is that alpha 2 is less than 90. So if alpha 2 is less than 90, what would happen? You will be getting a velocity diagram like this. Here we are calling this as slow runner. Why we are calling it slow runner? Because U2, that is the blade velocity at the exit, is less than VR2 cos beta 2. Another situation, alpha 2 equal to 90 degree. So in this case what would happen? In this case U2 and VR2 cos beta 2, this is VR2 cos beta 2 and this is also U2, they are same. Fine. Then third possibility which we have drawn in the last slide, that is alpha 2 is greater than 90 degree. Fine. Alpha 2 is greater than 90 degree. So this is that condition. This is known as fast runner, and here U2 is greater than VR2 cos beta 2. Fine. So these are the three possibilities. Fine. And now we have chosen this. We can do analysis with the help of this also and this also, depending upon the numerical, depending upon the situation. Fine. So this is the best way to judge what should be the angle. You just calculate U2 and you should find out VR2 cos beta 2. If U2 is lower, then alpha 2 will be less than 90 degree. If U2 is same, U2 and VR2 cos beta 2 is same, then alpha 2 is equal to 90 degree. And if U2 is greater than VR2 cos beta 2, then alpha 2 has to be greater than 90 degree. So our velocity triangle depends upon this comparison. Fine. So again, let us come back. Now I would like to mention about the impulse. See, we are calling Pelton wheel as impulse turbine. So why we are using the word impulse? The reason is, why we are using the word impulse? The reason is, if you can recall the last lecture which I have uploaded, that is on the hydraulic turbine basics. So in that I had explained the importance of the three components, that is V1 square minus V2 square upon 2. Then U1 square minus U2 square upon 2, and third is VR2 square minus VR1 square upon 2. So if you talk about impulse turbine, this term is 0 for impulse turbine. Why? Because U1 and U2 are same. Why U1 and U2 are same? This U1 and U2, this U1 and U2 are same. Why they are same? Because pi d n by 60. What is U? U is pi d n by 60. That diameter is same over this point and this point. So their radial location of this point and radial location of this point is same. That's why U1 and U2 are same. So if U1 and U2 are same, then U1 square minus U2 square by 2 will be 0. Now similarly, if you assume that there are no losses here at the splitter, because of striking there are no losses, and if you assume that the blade is smooth, then you can say that VR2 is equals to VR1. That means VR2 square minus VR1 square upon 2, that term is also 0. So we are left with which term then? We are left with only this term, that is V1 square minus V2 square upon 2. So the impulse action that is taking place is only because of absolute velocity. Blade velocity is not playing any role. Relative velocity is not playing any role. Impulsive action is solely done by absolute velocity, V1 square minus V2 square upon 2. Fine. Next. Now this thing, just now I told you that in impulse turbine VR2 is less than VR1. Practically speaking, VR2 will be less than VR1 and U1 is and U2 are same, as I told you. So now why VR2 is less than VR1? Because there is some energy loss when the jet strikes the splitter. Fine, when the jet strikes the splitter, there is some energy loss. Because of impingement, there is energy loss. Then there is some friction loss when the water glides over the bucket. Fine, because of friction there is some loss. So this is the slight decrease. Fine, so it is not going to contribute to impulsive action. Fine, it would actually, in fact, it will decrease the force. Fine, so that is measured by this. K is equals to VR2 by VR1. That is known as friction factor. So what is K? K is known as friction factor, which is the ratio of the relative velocity at exit to relative velocity at entrance. Fine. Now when K is 1, K is 1 only when the bucket surface is perfectly smooth, and second thing, the energy loss due to the impact at splitter is neglected. Fine. So this was about the friction factor. Now we are taking, as I told you, that we are taking alpha 2 greater than 90 degree. We are taking alpha 2 greater than 90 degree. So if alpha 2 is greater than 90 degree, then what would be the formula for force? This we have seen in the earlier lecture. F is equals to m dot into Vu1 minus Vu2. Now what is the work done? Work done is F into U, that is m dot into Vu1 minus Vu2 into U. So this is the work done. Now what we'll do is, we would like to convert. See, can we measure Vu1? We cannot measure it. Can we measure Vu2? No. Why can't we not? Why can't we measure it? Because these are the components of absolute velocity. So we can measure blade velocity, we can measure absolute velocity. Fine, but we cannot measure Vu1 and Vu2. So what we'll do is, we will convert this equation in terms of absolute velocity and blade velocity. What we'll do? We will convert this equation in terms of absolute velocity and blade velocity. Fine. Now one more thing here, just see, it is written V1 is equals to Kb into under root 2gh. Now what is V1? V1 is the actual absolute velocity with which the water enters into the blade when it comes out of nozzle and starts going towards the blade. No doubt, the velocity with which it enters is VR1, but this is the absolute velocity. So V1, what is the formula? Kv into under root 2gh. Now what is Kv? Kv is called as velocity coefficient. It accounts for the losses which are taking place in nozzle. Fine. And what is h here? H is nothing but the net head available across the turbine. Fine. So that is V1 is equals to Kv into under root 2gh. Fine. What is the kinetic energy of jet, or the input energy to the turbine? 1 by 2 m dot V1 square. Fine. So now what we'll do, we will write the efficiency formula, hydraulic efficiency formula. It is work done at wheel divided by kinetic energy of jet. So it is m dot into Vu1 minus Vu2 into U upon 1 by 2 m dot V1 square. So if you simplify it, you are getting this 2U into bracket Vu1 minus Vu2 upon V1 square. Fine. Now what we'll do, as usual, we would like to represent this in terms of blade velocity, which is already present, blade velocity and absolute velocity. Now why we are doing this? Because these are the measurable quantities, that's why we cannot measure this. Fine, so we would now convert this in terms of blade velocity and absolute velocity. So as you can see from the inlet velocity diagram, VU1 is equals to V1, VR1 is equals to V1 minus U. Similarly, what is VU2? From the outlet velocity diagram, we know that VU2 is equals to U minus VR2 cos beta 2, that we had seen. And what is VR2 cos beta 2? VR2 cos beta 2 is U minus K VR1. What is VR2? K into VR1. Just now we have seen. So if you simplify it, what you will get is this. That is VU2 is equals to U minus into bracket V minus U into K cos beta 2. Fine. So if you put these values, as you can see, now we have done, what we have done is we have converted the efficiency formula in terms of absolute velocity and blade velocity. Fine. Now the same formula can be written in terms of blade speed ratio. What is blade speed ratio? It is the ratio of blade velocity to absolute velocity. So if you put this, if you convert this U by V1 here in terms of that, and if you simplify it, if you solve it, what you will get is this. That is 2 into bracket rho minus rho square into 1 plus K cos beta 2. Fine. So these two formulas are very important. They will be helpful to you in examinations. Fine. So this is what it is. Now once you get the efficiency formula, that what we are doing, then we are maximizing it. Maximizing means what? We will differentiate the efficiency with respect to blade velocity, or we will differentiate the efficiency with respect to blade speed ratio, and we would like to find a relationship between blade velocity and absolute velocity, just the way we were doing in impact of jet. So we will do that and we'll solve it. So d eta by du is equals to 0. So what you will get is u is equals to v1 by 2. Similarly, you can do like this also, d eta by d rho equal to 0. So we'll get rho is equals to u by v1 is equals to 1 by 2. So when you will put these values here in the efficiency equation, we will get this relationship, which is very important. So for maximum efficiency, what you are getting? 1 plus K cos beta 2 by 2. Fine. If friction is neglected, then it would be 1 plus cos beta 2 by 2. Now we can plot the efficiency curve with respect to u by v. Fine, and we'll see that it is a parabolic curve. Now why we are getting a parabolic curve here? Why we are getting efficiency maximum only at one point? The reason is that if this is the bucket, suppose if this is the bucket, if I draw here, if this is the bucket, fine. So what would happen is, for one particular blade speed ratio only, the water will enter smoothly and exit smoothly. Fine. With minimum losses. So that value will be only one value. Ideally it would be 0.5. Fine. So at that particular value of at that particular ratio of blade velocity to absolute velocity, the entrance is smooth, the gliding is smooth, and the exit is also smooth. A shockless entry and shockless exit. That happens only at one value of one combination of blade velocity and absolute velocity. That's why we are getting maximum efficiency only at one point. Fine. Now let us come to the hemispherical bucket. This I have already explained, that when you will be getting maximum efficiency of 100% when the bucket is hemispherical. You can see that this is an hemispherical bucket. Water is striking and then the water is coming out back in the opposite direction. So what would happen is, it will hit back on the next bucket which is coming. It will hit back on the next bucket. Fine. So that's why this is impracticable. It is impracticable as it is written here. Fine. The outcoming jet strikes on the back of the succeeding bucket. Fine. And that's why here angle of deflection is 180 degree, which is on paper it is very good, but then it is not good practically. That's why how much value we are keeping. Beta 2 is kept 10 to 15 degree. That beta 2 is also known as side clearance angle. Fine. So for beta 2 is equals to 15 degree, eta max is obtained at 0.46 blade speed ratio. Fine. With k equal to 1, the efficiency comes out to be 93%. Fine. 93%. Okay, then now what we'll do, we will now represent efficiency. This is efficiency formula. Now what we are doing, we are representing efficiency formula in terms of velocity coefficient. So this is the formula. Fine. And if you put the value for maximum efficiency condition, this is the maximum efficiency formula by using velocity coefficient. So this also you should keep in mind, 1 by 2 kv square. What we have done is, instead of v1, what we have kept instead of v1, we have kept v1 into kv into v1 square. Fine. Where v1 is the ideal velocity, and actual is this. Actual is equals to kv into under root 2gh. So under root 2gh is nothing but v1. Fine. Now specific speed, what is meant by specific speed? So specific speed is the speed of a geometrically similar turbine which would develop unit power working under unit head. Fine. Now what is meant by geometrically similar turbine? A turbine which is identical in shape, blade angles and gate openings, that is called as geometrically similar turbine. Now specific speed is a very important parameter. It helps us out to select a particular kind of turbine. Second thing, it helps you can compare similar kinds of turbines with the help of specific speed. You can select a particular turbine. Suppose if you know the specific speed, on the basis of specific speed you can decide whether one should choose Pelton wheel or Francis turbine or Kaplan turbine. So you can choose the turbine with the help of specific speed, and this is the formula. Ns is equals to n under root p upon h to the power 5 by 4, where p is in kilowatts, h is the meter of head, that is the net head, and n is the rpm. Fine. So this was all about Pelton wheel. If you are having any doubt, you can contact me. Thanks.